Euzubillahimineşşeytanirracim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Rabbi şrah li sadri ve yessir li emri ve hlul ukdeten min lisani yefkahu kavli. Selamun aleyküm ve rahmetullahi ve berekatühü. Inshallah everyone is doing great. We are planning to continue with the fifth proof of 22nd word and first station.
Fifth proof. O my skeptical friend, come, look carefully at the inscriptions of this vast palace. Look at all the adornments of the town. See the ordering of this whole land, and reflect on all the works of art in this world. See, if these inscriptions are not worked by the pen of one hidden, who possesses infinite miracles and skills, and are not attributed to unconscious causes, to blind chance and deaf nature, then every stone and every plant in this land has to be an inscriber so wondrous it can write 1,000 books in every letter and include millions of works of art in a single inscription. Because look at the inscription on these stones. There's a note here that says, this alludes to man, the fruit of the tree of creation, and to the fruit which bears its tree's program and index. For whatever the pen of power has written in the great book of the universe, it has written in its summary in man's nature. And whatever the pen of divine determining has written in a tree the size of a mountain, it has also included in its fruit the size of a fingernail. Because look at the inscription on these stones. In each are the inscriptions of all the palace, and the laws ordering all the town, and the programs for organizing the whole country. That means that it is as wonderful to make these inscriptions as to make the whole country. In which case, all the inscriptions, all the works of art, are proclamations of that hidden one and seals of his. Since a letter cannot exist without showing the one who wrote it, and an artistic inscription cannot exist without making known its inscriber, how is it that an inscriber who writes a huge book in a single letter and inscribes 1,000 inscriptions in a single inscription should not be known through his writing and through his inscribing? That is the end of the fifth proof. Do you want me to just go directly into the sixth proof, or are we going to take a pause?
That would be nice.
Okay. All right, so the sixth proof. Come, let us go out onto this broad plain. And there's a note here that says that this broad plain indicates the face of the earth in the spring and summer. For the groups of hundreds of thousands of different creatures are created one within the other and written there. They are changed without fault or error and with perfect order. Thousands of tables of the most merciful one are laid out, then removed and replaced by fresh ones. All the trees as though bare trays, all the gardens are like cauldrons. On it is a high mountain, whose summit we shall climb to so that we can see all the surrounding country. We shall take with us a good pair of binoculars, which will bring everything close, for strange things are happening in this strange land. Every hour things are taking place that we could not imagine. Look, these mountains, plains, and towns are suddenly changing. And how? In such a way that millions of things are being changed in the most regulated and orderly fashion, one within the other. Truly wondrous transformations are being wrought, just as though millions of various cloths are being woven one into the other. Look, these flowery things, which we know and are familiar with, are disappearing, and others have come into their place in orderly fashion, which resemble them in nature but are different in form. It is quite simply as though this plain and the mountains are each a page, and within them are being written hundreds of thousands of different books. And they are being written faultlessly and without defect. It is impossible 100 times over that these matters should have come about on their own. Yes, for these works, which are skillfully and carefully fashioned to an infinite degree, to have occurred on their own is impossible 1,000 times. For rather than themselves, they show the artist who fashioned them. Moreover, the one who did this displays such miracles that nothing at all could be difficult for him. It is as easy for him to write 1,000 books as to write one book. Look all around you. He both puts everything in its proper place with perfect wisdom, and he munificently showers the favors on everyone of which they are worthy. And he draws back and opens general veils and doors so bountifully that everyone's desires are satisfied. And he sets up tables so generously that a feast of bounties is given to all the people and animals of this land. Each group and individual is given one particular and suitable for it even. So, is there anything more impossible in the world than that there should be anything attributable to chance in these matters that we see? Or that among these matters that we see there is anything purposeless or vain, or that many hands should be interfering in them, or their maker should not be capable of everything, or that everything should not be subjugated to him. And so, my friend, find a pretext in the face of these if you can. And that is the end of the 6th proof.
Oh, Jazakallah khair. Thanks a lot. So you definitely have the priority if you want to share your comments.
Sure. I guess my initial takeaway from the 6th proof, at least for me, it brought my attention to both proofs actually, to the interconnectedness of the universe on myself, and how, we, in a way, I have this connection with everything that I interact with on so many different levels, and that the regulation, that the order, that the created order, that, or the order that I am experiencing, the text makes an emphasis on this order, and how, it is not the order that is keeping the order, but rather there must be a conscious wise being, the orderer behind the order, the writer behind the book, not the printer behind the printed text, as opposed to the things being attributed to themselves. So that's my initial takeaway.
Well, Jazakallah khair. So any other comments with the 5th or 6th proof? We can start with the 5th and then go to the 6th, but if you have any general comments, Feria, please go ahead.
Just to add on to what Hatice Beza mentioned, it's interesting how, like, in several parts, the author always emphasizes on, hey, whatever you see, whatever you observe in creation, do you think it's just random act? Do you think it's just happening by itself, right? It's really knocking to one's consciousness that whatever you're made to observe, because everything is constantly in motion. So, it seems that, lost, not record, there must be a one things into existence, will the act that is being displayed. So just like this movie is like, this universe is like a movie, right? And there must be a director. So whatever we observe, the author keeps, like drawing our attention that, hey, do you think it's just happening by chance? Is it just happening randomly by accident? And that's true. I mean, that's how, the dynamic nature of this universe, catches our attention in that regards. And at the same time, I was thinking that, wow, it's just so important for the human consciousness to realize that that things are not randomly happening on their own, because otherwise there's no like sense of security. You're just like, oh, it's like I don't have one taking care of me, or everything that's going around. And the reason why this caught my attention is I was thinking, well, because several places the author keeps mentioning that, and I was thinking, in order to have a convinced mind, or when you have to be definite that, hey, nothing is happening randomly. It's not by chance. It's not by accident, right? Yeah. So having a convinced mind is a must, so that I don't get lost into not recognizing the conscious will behind everything. And that's all I wanted to share.
Oh, thanks a lot. Any other comments? Please go ahead.
So, in the fifth one, it's interesting. He starts with saying, "Oh, my skeptical friend." In the original text, he is not using skeptical, but he's using. We studied the topic of waswasa before coming to here, right? He's using the word waswasa, the ones with whispers. So, because skepticism is as if not accepting immediately, so having some questions. But one with whispers is as if the question marks are not real, worthy, maybe, to be considered as real. So, and in the following part, he talks about inscriptions of the palace, adornments of the town, ordering of the whole land. So all of these are, I mean, if there's an inscription, then there should definitely be an inscriptor. But I guess this is generally the part that is being missed. Because he gave the example of like small stones, said one is man, the other one is seed. So do I consider them as inscriptions? Because as if the author in here is saying that if you consider them as inscriptions and adornments, then eventually you have to accept one and only inscriptor because of the order that he's explaining in here. Whoever is writing the small stone has to be the maker of the large palace. So it's clear. But do I admit that there is an inscription? So, and this is why I guess he is saying this friend with whispers, as if we would like to say, well, there's no inscription there. Because once you accept, you have to also admit that there has to be a maker, doer. So how sound of an idea it is to say that, well, I don't see any adornment, I don't see any inscription. So it is nothing more than a whisper.
And I guess, like, whether you are skeptical or whether you have whispers, which disturbs your certainty, which disturbs your, let's say, the peace in your mind. The author is saying that, look around, like there are all these evidences, all these proofs, which will take you to the right path. Like it's not like you have to try to find some clues or evidences in a hard way. All these evidences is already in front of you. Just look. It's not a hard thing. It's not something you have to strive for.
Because the way that sometimes it's being formed is, well, this DNA sequence, it's just a sequence, one of the possible sequences which ended up working. So I don't see any specific thing. It's just by chance, as if I am forcing myself not to see a cassette, real, what's it? Well, yeah, certainly somebody is willingly did something. So I'm a purpose. I'm trying to avoid that. But it's as clear because otherwise, I guess we also mentioned this last week. Anybody who has some sort of a profession is admitting that there is an order in the existence.
It's the intention.
Okay, intention, yeah. So anybody who has a profession, last week we were saying that is already by himself or herself, even without that person speaking any single word, we would say that this person is admitting that there's an order in the existence because this person is an expert of this order. So likewise in here, if a person is an expert of something, then that means this person is studying and making use of this order in there. So it's a contradiction to say that, well, I don't see any order. But when it comes to, let's say, explaining the DNA sequence or man, we tend to say that, well, there's no pattern I observe. It is as if it happened to be like this.
I guess this attitude that it's even against everything we know about, let's say, logic or even what we know about scientific research. When there's an evidence in front of you, you act according to evidence. You don't say, but what about the things that I don't have in front of me? What about all these other possibilities? You act according to evidence in front of you. This is what you do. This is the sensible, reasonable thing to do. Or talking about chance itself, it doesn't make sense. Like you have some pattern in front of you, which is like perfectly meaningful, makes sense, and you say that, oh, do you know what? But it can be made out of chance. But you don't do this when you do, let's say, scientific research. When you see a pattern, and when the chance is just this pattern occurring by random chance is less than 5%, it's enough for you to believe that it's something, something to accept. And with all these things, like with DNA, for instance, such a sequence coming together to work, it's definitely less than 5%. It's not even something you would consider at all. But still, just because you can, put the word chance in a sentence, that's enough for you. As long as a thunderbolt come and, block my sentence, just because you can articulate such a sentence, oh, but maybe it's out of chance, that's enough for you to deny. Instead of, I guess, acting according to evidence in front of us, we act according to just imaginary other possibilities we don't even have any grasp of. Suhail, please go ahead.
So what I was going to say is, even talking about percentage chances doesn't make sense. So somebody who says, oh, well, it's likely there must be an inscriber, using Nursi's language, who writes the pages of the universe. It's 95% likely. Or, in science they say, something that has like 6 sigma statistical significance. In other words, it's highly, highly improbable that we found some sort of result due to chance. But you have to ask yourself, where did you even get this notion that there is a pattern to begin with? Like, where does the existence of like this idea that things can have a pattern? Like, you didn't come up with this idea in a vacuum, meaning that you can't point to anything that's chance or probabilistic out there. Like, there's nothing probabilistic out in the universe. You may not know the full like everything that took place for that event to happen, let's say, or you may not know the complete framework of how something works, the pattern. But you know there must be a pattern, because the reason you have an idea that a pattern must exist is because the universe is sort of like reminding you or telling you there is a pattern. It's like, you know, I always go back to this example because to me it's the easiest way to understand, but light and darkness. You can't talk about chance as some sort of independent reality like darkness. Like within a pattern, there's no chance within a pattern. A pattern's a pattern. You can't be, it's not probabilistic. It's a pattern. That's by definition what a pattern is, or the order. So to talk about chance, it's just your inability to comprehend what the pattern is. So you just call it random probability. You just assign it probability. But you don't have absolute knowledge. That's the issue. It's not because you have just because you have some knowledge, or just because that there isn't the complete pattern out there, then some of it must be due to chance. No, it's just you don't have absolute knowledge of all things that it could be and all things that are taking place. So, and then the other thing I wanted to mention is when you talk about a pattern or order, it's almost an abstraction of reality. That's a human conception, which by definition points to something beyond things themselves, which therefore points to the orderer, the one who ordered things. Like you can't show a pattern in things themselves, implicit. It's conceived in by the human intellect. Where is the pattern? No one can really tell you where the pattern is. They can show you a demonstration of the pattern, but they can't show you the pattern itself. That's like meaning. That's like the angelic representation. It's something that looks beyond the material nature of reality. Math is that way. Like no one can show you numbers. Like where are numbers? You know, I always tell people who say, "Oh, well, things are ordering themselves." Well, show me where these numbers are. Where are these equations and formulas? I don't see them out there. It's just an abstraction of reality that looks beyond things themselves. Even physics equations, reactions, things like principles of chemistry or biology. Like where are these principles, these laws you call them? It's just things you perceive and you just called it that. You just made a story out of them. Maybe your story is incomplete because you don't have absolute knowledge, but the fact that you can make a story out of it or can observe a pattern points that chance doesn't even exist. Chance is simply your inability to comprehend what the pattern may be, and then the fact that there is a pattern points to one who ordered the universe.
Jazakallah khair. There's one comment from Hatice Beyza. She says, human beings assign chance to the part of the order or pattern that they are not yet aware of. Human beings assign chance to the part of the order or pattern that they are not yet aware of. Any other comments on that regard? Abdurrahman? No? Sure? Okay. Going back to text, he says, an inscriber, I'm in the fifth proof, an inscriber so wondrous it can write 1,000 books in every letter and include millions of works of art in a single inscription. 1,000 books in a letter, millions of works of art in a single inscription. So I would ask, what do you understand from that? But even before going to that, so I really like this idea of, as a letter myself, I am a letter, and there's thousands of books in me. So I'm just a single inscription which includes millions of works of art. It gives me a sense of, I guess, care, like being cared of. It gives me a sense of love, like I am loved, definitely. You know, somebody puts all these millions of artworks in me. And I guess it gives a sense of value, not, value in a sense that I have something to show off, but I am being valued. Just imagine, like, you building something and you using all, your talent, the artistic talent, to fill this thing, say, furniture, with all these artistic inscriptions. Anybody would easily say that, we value it. You wouldn't just give it away or throw it away. So when I look at myself in the same way, and as I see all these the artworks emerge, being revealed in front of my eyes, I say, whoever is creating me, whoever is inscribing me, he must be loving me. He must be giving me such a value. He wouldn't throw it away. So, but yeah, besides that, like, what do you understand from these 1,000 books in every letter? Thousand comments in the silence. Oh, Suhail, please go ahead.
I mean, to me, you can see. So, for example, like if you're studying, let's say, biology, you can look at even the smallest thing, like a cell, and drill down even further and further and further and further and further and further. Like, the limit to what you can know is endless, or what you can observe is endless, whether you look on the macro scale or the micro scale. That's just one example. Or even for that matter, like if you just look at the human being, or like for example, he desires, let's say, like permanent, undying beauty. There's no end to what your understanding of that could be. So that's simply the letter being, man desires eternal manifestation of beauty. That's a sort of a letter, but like, what does that mean to you now? Like, there's pages upon pages of that to be read, and that you read that through your life experiences. It's endless. There's like a sort of endless degree to how you can understand that. Or an endless degree to which you can progress in any sort of understanding of his names, whether it's mercy, compassion, knowledge, will, justice. There's no end to which your potentiality as a human being, just like there's no end to the manifestation of his names out there in the world. There's no one can say they've reached the limit of their understanding of a certain subject. It's not possible. Likewise, you can't reach the limit in your, sort of, as Norsi says, acknowledgement, gratitude, thanks, and appreciation of his manifestation of his names within you. There's no end to that either.
Any other points?
Can I ask a quick question?
Please go.
You know how, let me give a story, I guess. So imagine a very, very rich father. He's very rich, but he spends no time with his family. He just buys houses, cars, gives the best education, best, gaming consoles, books, everything. And then you go to the kid, and the kid is like, I miss my dad. My dad doesn't spend time with me. But then you're like, hey, look at your house. Look at all this wealth he gives you. Don't you feel loved? And you would say, no, the father is like really not spending time with his kids. And when you tell me I have 1,000 books in me, I'm like, okay, cool. But I want to spend time, like connection. It's not enough just to see like there's this artwork. It doesn't, I mean, maybe sometimes it feels good, but it doesn't really, it's very hard to like, I don't know, feel that love from like a car that your dad buys you or something. That's just all he does. So I guess I just wanted to raise this question to you. Like, how would you then, like, how is it not the same thing as in like we experience in like real life maybe?
Mm-hmm. Brother Yusuf, could you help us?
I guess it depends on how we take those 1,000 books in us. So the example started with father, but we can take example from mother. Let's say, no matter what your age is, you go home, and if you put your head to your mother's lap, and she starts playing with your hair, just combing it with her hands, let's say. And this is something like you can take it as well. She's just putting order to your hair. But on the other hand, you can take it as, no, this putting of order to your hair is in a very lovely or merciful fashion. So how do I feel about the things that are happening to me? Because I am being written all those books within me. So do I feel it like as if my creator, I mean, metaphorically speaking, with his hand, carving, as if modeling my hair, modeling my face and everything? Do I feel it like this much of an intimate relation? Or do I feel it like, well, he set it up from distance. So he set the first cell, and now the machine is working by itself. So he's busy with governing the mechanism from above, but he's too much outside of the machinery. But the machinery is as if he's just pulling the strings, but the strings are doing the job. I guess it's a matter of perception. How do I perceive how close my maker to me is? But yeah, Abraham's question is very relevant, saying that I can take it in a way that my creator is very distant from me. But it's also possible to take it in another way, in which I realize that my creator is very close to me, closer than, as Quran says, my jugular vein, meaning that he is so close, he's always shaping my hair, combing my hair with his hands, sort of.
And I guess, like, very similar to what you said, as you look at yourself, as you look at look at the people around you that you love or hate, as you see this inscription on them, as you see the inscription in you, and then realize, as the sixth proof says, these inscriptions is changing every like single moment. So he is with me, the inscriber is with me all the time. And the way he changes me, it's so beautiful. So if you don't care about the car, for instance, that your father gives you, yeah, you wouldn't see the love. But I guess with the creator, it's not simply car, it's everything that you care. Your body, your ideas, your emotions, the people you love, people you hate, they are all inscribed again and again. So it's everything you care that's being inscribed. It's not like he gives you a car or house that you don't care. So in the father example, for instance, if you need compassion, he inscribes compassion in you. Don't you feel compassion, like at least from time to time that you meet with your mother? He brings your mother in front of you, and then he inscribes the compassion in you. It's something that you care. It's not, oh, I don't care about the compassion. I don't care about the excitement that I have for my job. You do care.
I guess one reason that I can relate with Abdurrahman's question in the sense that if I take, let's say, studying such discussions as, which, I mean, I found myself to be doing this a lot, especially at some certain parts of my life, as proving the existence of the creator as if like a mathematical formula. And when I do that, I hope Aisha is not there, trying to do it like a philosopher, sometimes I am trying to as if isolate myself from my feelings in order, for the sake of being objective, because those emotions are being considered subjective, so I am trying to be as objective as possible. And this is what makes Abdurrahman's question legitimate, or where it is coming from. Because in there, for example, a car is something tangible. But what in the Abdurrahman's example, the child is asking for time of father, which is not touchable, tangible. But if I am trying to, let's say, prove the existence of the creator with something as objective as things like that, yes, then it becomes, okay, I prove the existence of such a God, but it's such a distant God. What do you mean by that? But there's those other aspects of me, which is like, requires love or hope or all those emotions. So I guess I need to utilize them to realize the inscriber that is being mentioned in here. So not only the inscription of those quote-unquote objective or tangible stuff, but my emotions are as tangible as the apple tree out there. So I guess I should be considering them all, so that I wouldn't feel like, okay, yeah, there has to be an absolute creator, so what?
Oh, Hatice Beyza, please go ahead.
In relation to the analogy that was just given, to the extent that we can use the analogy, I was thinking, it could be perhaps that when the father gave the son the car, inside the car is a letter that says, "Son, I know you have a lot of places you need to go to, and because I recognize that need in you, here is a car for you." And within every single present the son receives from the father, every single one, there is a letter, let's say, in it that says, "Son, I know, you're going through XYZ hardship or whatever, and I know you need this specifically because I know your situation so well that I have prepared this particular gift specifically for you." So I think, in these letters that include millions of works of art in a single inscription, I think it all starts with, as far as my interaction with the rest of the universe goes, I have that connection there. It's not me and the sun. I have this relationship with the sun. I have this relationship with the rocks on the ground as I walk. Like everything in creation, it invokes a sort of emotion in me, as long as I reflect on it. So, I think again, to the extent that the analogy can be used, the gifts themselves are not just like, here, take my credit card and buy whatever it is that you want, but rather I am giving these to you very particularly, specifically to you, because I know the situation that you're in. And in a way, I mean, that's a type of love language too. Like, I care about you, and so I'm giving this to you to take care of you. So, but if the kid he just uses a car and he doesn't read the meaning in the car or whatever, then it just becomes a car for him. It doesn't become a present that looks to his need. He's just like, yeah, I got to location A, B, C, or from A to B, but I still feel that yearning for the connection with my father.
Oh, please. So, Suhail, you were first raising your hand, but Asim hasn't spoken yet. So, if you don't mind, I would ask him to speak first, and then you, if that's okay. So, Asim, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I was also thinking about why I'm not seeing, like all these works of art that are there. And based on all the comments that I'm hearing also, thank you for all of that. The key word for me is the reflect part. Like, why do we not see, or why do I not see all those things? Like, usually we keep ourselves so busy in our whatever we're doing in our lives that we don't take the time out to reflect on, and look at maybe a single moment. Like, if I'm sitting right here right now, I can reflect on that moment and see and try to see what that moment means, what is there for me, and really try to see, try to explain it, question it, and see, every form, every emotion, the feelings I have, the emotions I go through, the senses, any of those things in this moment. I mean, what are they? What do they, as Suhail was mentioning, all those equations of mathematics and all those things that we talk about all the time, like, what are they? They're all abstractions. Showed me how they are existing. So all those things are actually what I need to reflect on in terms of how I would see the art in this world, and realize these things are, not happening by themselves, or there is something that, the author writes that there's a pen that you don't see. That's correct. I don't see anything physical that is writing all those feelings within me, but they are there, and I'm going through and experiencing them. So how are they coming? And all that shows that whoever is making or giving existence to those things must be very skillful, very artistic, and really, as the author writes it, as infinite miracles and skills, that nothing that is existing can make all those things available. So that is something that I feel I need to work on in terms of the reflection part, to see all those works of art. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Jazakallah khair. So Suhail, please go ahead.
The example Abdul Rahman brought up, to me, I kind of going with Khadija, because I was saying the problem I find in that is that, what is your relationship or connection to the creator based on? It's based on what's happening in the universe, what you've been given, and what you've been given in terms of your faculties, or what, let's say, how your feelings in situations, or how you think about things, your thoughts and ideas. It's not like, oh, I'm given them and then nothing to do with the creator. But if it's a message or a letter, it's meant to be read, and therefore that's like a direct communication or direct relationship with the creator of the universe. Otherwise, if you just see it as something being given and that's it, nothing else to use and then dispose of, then I don't see a point in even believing in God himself to be anyway. Like, what's the point then? Doesn't solve anything, or doesn't benefit you in any way. So what? That a building has an architect. Okay, that's fine. I mean, I'm going to go use the building, but that's not the point. The point is to have a relationship, a communication. And I think the issue is we don't see, the meaningful aspect of things as being a communication from the creator to you. I think there's the universe out there, and there's me, and to have a direct communication, it's as if like God should come down and sit down with me, come down from his throne to sit down with me. But that's how I have a relationship, is through the universe, through me, through what I've been given, what's inscribed, upon my, spirit. So that to me is the crux of the issue.
There is a question from Asim. He's asking, why does the author refer to men as a stone? Why does the author refer to men as a stone? Although he makes an important point in the footnote. He says, and Fariha, she responds as, Perhaps because we are a live book, just as a story is written on stones. That is inscription, she says. And Faraz comments on the same topic, saying, I think the metaphor of palace requires that he refers to building blocks or as stones. This is also what I was thinking. Like previously, in previous sentences, he talks about the palace and all these buildings made of stones. I guess that's the reason he chose the example. Also, like in the reminder, he says, remaining part, he also says, because look at the inscription on the stones, in each are the inscriptions of all the palace and the laws ordering all the town and the programs for organizing the whole country. So in each stone, which is building blocks as far as of a building, a palace, written the entire order, entire laws, or the laws of the palace, and then everything about the city that palace is embedded, and the country. Just like within the human being, the entire universe is being inscribed. I guess that's the analogy.
I guess it was Suhail's turn. Sorry. Suhail was going to talk, right?
No, Suhail already talked just before he...
Okay.
Yeah, so you were not listening.
So I can talk.
Yes, you can talk.
So, in the creation, there is a very interesting choice that the Creator has written in every single one of my cells, the entire plan of my body. Although, let's say, a cell in my fingertip has nothing to do with I, apparently. So just information related to how to be a finger would be sufficient for a cell in the finger. It is like as if for every worker in a company, you give the whole red book of the company to every single worker. Well, I'm just a janitor, man. You don't need to give it to me, as if. But by that, as if the Creator is putting into my eyes that from the order we already know that the cells in my finger needs to know everything in my body, as if. And just to show this to me in a way, the Creator also put the program of my whole body to the tip of my finger as well. Nursi is reading it in a different way. So maybe he did know, maybe he didn't know at his time about the DNA. But if you observe the order within the universe, you see that, as he makes this point in several places, a single particle in the tip of your finger needs to your hand, know your hand, know your arm, know your body, know the solar system and everything. So, and this is a observer without knowing the DNA. But now that we also see that the Creator actually put a plan over there of the whole body, is also saying that, look, practically speaking, as if this single cell in your body knows whole body. Saying that, isn't this beyond the capacity of every single cell in your body?
And when you look at yourself or even a single cell of yours, you will find 1,000 books written there. And one example would, as you said, would be your DNA. I guess the point is, like from my perspective, that I am asked, there's a call for me to read all these books as well. That you are not just a shallow, empty thing, that you have all these books in you. Read them. I guess we can apply the same logic to anything in the creation and see the 1,000 books or 1,000 stories beyond or behind every single letter in the creation. Because when he says, it can write 1,000 books in every letter. It also reminds me, it also tells me that whenever I see a letter, I should look for these 1,000 books. So behind every single letter, there's all these stories to be listened, to be understood. So I guess it depicts a creation, it depicts a reality in which everything is just a symbol, going beyond themselves. And then in such a creation, in such a reality, you're trying to find a story behind everything, every single thing. Oh, why it is being put there, but not there. Or you look at some flowers, see some colors, and you say, oh, look at these colors, the way they are put together with other colors. It may mean something, what does it mean? What is the purpose there? What is the message there? It's, I guess, like there are certain directors, the movie directors, right? When you watch their movies, you know that they play with things and you're looking for them. Like with every single detail, you're looking for some symbols. For one movie, I remember like the old times when I was young, the guy opens a door. So the scene from outside the door, and the door opens, let's say, from right to left, okay? And then next scene is from inside the room. We see the guy opening the door, but this time the door is opening from left to right. It's just reversed. So you could take it as, a mistake, but you know the director. So you know the director that it probably is not a mistake. And then when you start searching for it, you learn that director was actually asked them to take the door apart, put it in the reverse, the side for the next scene. So he, invested to just change the direction of the door, the opening of the door, and then took the second scene. So he was trying to give a message with this symbol, like a single stupid style. They think the door is opening from right to left and then left to right. And it means something within the context of the movie. So with such directors, that there are all these messages, the way just as the chairs are put, let's say two of them comes together and then there's a gap, there's another three, the other chairs, that this 2 and 3 means something. It will come to, my attention in another scene, let's say. So the life is that, Nursi says, it even goes beyond that. With every letter, with everything that you see, there's a message. You see a flower having let's say, an ugly color. I'm just saying ugly, you say, well, it doesn't fit there. Then you realize, maybe it's, before it was opening from right to left, maybe it's now left to right time, maybe it means something. The fact that I don't like it, maybe there's a message there. The director is trying to tell me something. So read all these messages, read all these symbols, read all these books. Any other comments? Points? Oh, Suhail, please go ahead.
I always find it funny, these materialists or atheists always say, oh, you're looking for meaning, you're looking for purpose out there, when there is no such thing. You're projecting this idea onto the world. But the fact that you're denying meaning or purpose is itself meaningful, in a sense. Talking about things as if they have meaning or don't have meaning is in and of itself meaning. It means something. you can't disentangle yourself from the letter aspect to the universe. It's not possible. Like, you can't. No one can say. It's just. I mean, I know I kind of keep rehashing this, but I've been thinking about this lately quite extensively. Like, as you said, it's as if you're being spoken to in every moment, or being written to in every moment, even if something is trivial, by the author of the universe. And to say that there is no meaning in things is in itself self-contradictory. Because the fact that you can read something and even take the position that there is no meaning means that there is meaning. And therefore your position is wrong to say there is no meaning. Like, you can't say meaning doesn't exist. That doesn't make sense. You can't affirm or be certain about the non-existence of meaning, because it's not. There's no such thing. It's like, I look to the sun, and I see the sun, but I say the sun doesn't exist. You're being self-contradictory. There's no value in that. So I think looking at the universe, just kind of, and not to say that just an atheist would do this or a materialist, but even in my own life, if I just kind of go through my life every day and not reflect on every moment that I'm being written to or spoken to, then I kind of do the same thing. Oh, it's nice, I have this letter, but I'm just gonna, put it on the shelf, put it on the counter, not read it. It's nice, I was sent a letter, but I'm not going to utilize it, or not going to actually read it for what it's intended. So that's, I guess, what we do also in our own life.
Well, thank you, Suhail. Another comment after? Would you like? Anyone else? I guess we can continue with the sixth proof. There, authors he's talking about the change, all these intense and violent change taking place there and those. But then he says, while everything's changing, there are certain things which is preserved, like the purpose or the wisdom. Everything is showing his bounties and so on.
So in the footnote which comes right after the first sentence, he talks about thousands of tables of the most merciful one are laid out and then removed and replaced by fresh ones. All the trees as though bare trays, all the gardens are like cauldrons. So this tables is a very beautiful metaphor he is using here, which reminds me of Surah Al-Ma'idah, which is the chapter of table. Table meaning like a banquet table, like food table. And at the end of this chapter, disciples of Jesus says, even before the verse that I'm going to mention, Creator says, I inspired disciples to believe in me and my messenger, and they declared, indeed we believe in you, and be witness that we are submitting to you. Right after this verse, disciples say to the Jesus, can your Lord send us a table from the heavens? Then Jesus replies, be conscious of your Lord. And then, but they insist, saying that, well, we are going to, so that we can eat from it, so that our hearts are going to be content. It's going to be like a feast for us, for the first of us, for the last of us. And then the Creator, and then Isa alayhi salam makes this dua. Then the Creator replies, and actually the translation is very interesting in there because it uses present tense, but as far as I understand, let me pick up the verse. The Creator says, I send you tables all the time. But most of the translators says, I will send. But it's like the present tense sentence. It can be understood the way that you put the context, either for the future or for the present time. So one of the translators were capturing that, saying that I already sent the table the whole time. But if you deny, then I'm going to punish you very badly, whatever. So in here, Nursi is now interpreting this table as spring. Spring is the table.
One of the tables.
One of the tables which is being kept laid in front of us again and again. And we are invited to this banquet by our Lord, Rabb. And, but we are being unconscious, or so taqwa, being God conscious. So we are being unconscious of the Lord. So this was interesting to mention, since he is talking about metaphors, and within the metaphors he uses another metaphor which is also being used by Quran. So it was an interesting
this change and spring, I guess, is the great metaphor of the Creator. Other day we were talking to my mother-in-law and brother-in-law, and they were asking, are you going outside to walk, and whatever, like they asking what we do in our free time. And Aisha was saying it's kind of like an obligation for us to go outside, because if we do not go to outside, we know that we will miss something. Every day there's a different flower. Every day there's a different tree which shows its beautiful face. And it's changing all the time. Like one day one tree, another day another tree, one day one color, another day another color, the same tree. So it's constantly changing. Like you have to go and see, otherwise you will miss it. You know that. And the change is so beautiful. Like you don't say, oh, the tree changed, so it's not beautiful anymore. No, it's even beyond your imagination. It becomes beautiful, and then another day, another kind of beautiful. So it's amazing, yes. Like all these details that he puts. Like other day, so I'm just advertising the Philadelphia. It's so great, so everyone should come. Other day we were walking. I don't know, it's like a joke, seriously. Like we're walking under these pink trees, which is like everywhere in Philadelphia is pink nowadays. And we're walking on a carpet, pink carpet outside. Like you're walking on the street, which is covered by all these pink confettis, flowers, and you're walking on it, as if you are what is called something guest, special guest. This red carpet stuff, it's much beautiful than that. It's a pink carpet. It's so beautiful. Like the entire street is covered by pink flowers. What kind of joke it is? Like in a nice way. What kind of value is given to us? So yes, these tables being laid down, all these bounties, like even without going to the food that we eat, the drinks that we, how do you say? Whatever, the things that we drink. Even without going there, just looking, just the beauty, which is laid down in front of you. That's amazing.
I guess we have this attitude of disciples, as if there's nothing being laid in front of us, so we expect some extra favor from the Creator. Not even extra, some favor from the Creator. Do something for us so that we are going to know that you are there, so that we are going to be convinced and content. The Creator says, both the messenger also says, be conscious. He is already doing, and the Creator says, I already do it the whole time. And in here, the author is showing that it's already being laid the whole time.
Any other comments? Since it's about the spring, all all these bounties, I'm sure we have some talented artists among us who would depict a beautiful picture of the spring. Okay. So I don't want to miss anything with the sixth proof, but other than that, we can continue with the seventh proof. Is there any parts that at least you think that should be studied, and the parts that are not so clear? I guess one thing Hatice Beyza wants to speak. Let me finish just one sentence and then I will give it to you, Hatice. So sorry. I guess one thing to emphasize is, yes, everything is changing, but the way they change is so, like, there's a beauty in this change itself. Not that only, like, they are beautiful and then they are changed, they become more beautiful, or they were ugly and they become beautiful, but the way they are changing, it's also so beautiful. Like every piece moving in a very meaningful way. There's always a purpose. He says, very interesting. And he draws back and opens general veils and doors so bountifully that everyone's desires are satisfied. So all this change brings nothing but satisfaction. Of course, if we see them as bounties, otherwise we just see them as either calamities or unfortunate events. Like you see the street covered by the carpet, the flowers, and you say, how unfortunate it is. It was so beautiful before, now the tree is becoming naked. It is also possible to see it that way. And I remember, seeing it that way. But also, it is possible to see how all these doors are opened in front of me so bountifully that everyone's desires are satisfied. Satisfaction in the change. I guess this is something so crucial. Sorry, Hatice, I said just one sentence, but I guess it's so addictive. The satisfaction in change. This is the exact opposite of the way we see the change. We spend all these dollars to stop certain changes, like aging, for instance. We try to stop the change that take place in part of the world, in universe. We see some change in climate, we say, well, we have to stop. We see some change in our health, we say, well, we have to stop. The change is something, it's the same thing for us, equals something that has to be stopped. We don't like change. But here, author says, just opposite, that change is something that satisfies everyone's desires. So, sorry again, Hatice, please go ahead.
No need to apologize. Thank you for bringing that up. I wanted to make a note on change as well, but from another perspective, I think the text, at least in the sixth proof, is also making an emphasis on the change in the universe. So we observe the order before in the fifth and the sixth proof, but within the order, there is constant change. So it's bringing our attention to the change within the order. And, one can't say that, for example, nature itself established its own order, because what one may call nature itself is subject to the order. For example, every spring, the same trees seem to be blossoming. So here, there are many cherry blossom trees as well, and they bloom at this time every year. So there is an order that I observe. But just as the flowers change every single day, every single year the tree blossoms with, it's not the same flower that is coming out amongst it. There's still a change within the order itself. So when the text says, look, these mountains, plains, and towns are suddenly changing, and how in such a way that millions of things are being changed in the most regulated and orderly fashion, one within the other. So I think there's also, there is definitely an emphasis here being made on the order and the orderly change within the order itself as well. And the fact that this necessitates a conscious will behind it. It's not like a clock or a system, like a laptop, for example, that you put the program in and it just runs by itself, right? The program seems to be updating every single moment differently, but within an order. And the program, the consciousness behind the change cannot be attributed to the program in the laptop. So like the continuousness of creation and the continuous change in creation necessitating a continuous conscious will, I think, is an emphasis in this proof as well.
Jazakallah khair. Great points. Another comments with the sixth proof. Otherwise, I guess we can at least read the seventh proof. Oh, Faraz, please go ahead.
Oh, okay. So, are we talking about the sixth proof? Did you guys already read it, or is it that you kind of summarized it, and so that's why we're not reading it? I wasn't sure, and then I can make my comment. I wanted to ask that first.
Oh, we read it at the very beginning, like we read the fifth and the sixth together, and start discuss kind of, little from fifth and another little from sixth, this kind of. So you are free to make comments on any part of the text.
I see. Okay. I missed the beginning, so it's my fault. I'm trying to skim through the six, but I would hardly, I couldn't really. But you summarized it, and Yusuf. So there's a number of things that everyone said, that some of the things I'm thinking about, and maybe quickly. I mean, these are again things, not new things, but just because what we are talking about came to mind. One, it's interesting. The fifth starts with saying, "Oh, my skeptical friend," and I think there is something to be said that these kinds of teachings and these kinds of things certainly have a relationship to what I'm feeling. If I actually am not really skeptical, if I'm not really feeling nobody's watching out for me, nobody's hearing me, and if that's not my state of being, if I'm not in that skeptical condition, then I shouldn't be surprised that what is said is, maybe it's not hitting me, or not really, I feel. So what I'm saying is that sometimes it's possible that we are affected by it, that we are too much, let's say, away from it, and sometimes maybe we're already in it. So, and then this kind of things are more, and then relating that to this point about the beauty of the spring. Again, I understand, the change, and like you said, there's two ways, change. I think any person who really thinks about beauty, if you think, not superficially about it, if you're superficial about it and just kind of for, aesthetic enjoyment, you see something, oh, it strikes me as beautiful, oh, nice, but if you think about it, it actually hurts you because it's so passing, and it's beautiful, yet I don't know what to make of it, whether I will be here for it, whether someone I want to be next to me when I witness this beauty is not there. There are all kinds of things in which this beauty is, in some way imperfect, in some way passing, and so it's actually hurts, and it's. But so I guess the point being that am I looking for this beauty of the spring as kind of an aesthetic enjoyment, or is it a healing for a wound? When I'm looking, I guess, with this, what Nursi is saying is, I suppose, interpreting some verse of the Quran, and he's trying to say, well, here is similitudes to through which I can understand my Maker, and the real or the truth. So is this something that when I'm looking at this table, this spring, I guess going to what Khadija Bez also said, I think if I understood her, she's also this idea of someone doing this continuously, the will, and what that shows to me. And so that aspect of it, that it's that with is it that I do feel the need to find out if there is someone who is in control, someone who's managing, who knows, who hears, who sees my needs, who knows what I want and is able to provide it. And how can I be sure that yes, there is someone who is whose will is ordering things as they are in the world and in my life, and can I feel secure in this one, with this one? So as a kind of, those are the questions that are what I'm referring to as the wound, or as the as things that concern me as I confront this beautiful spring. And so do I hear news in it that heals those wounds, and so that I see that beauty as speaking to me about, speaking to those, because otherwise it feels that if it's not addressing my skeptical self, if it's not an answer to a wound, then it can become sort of try to enjoy the beauty, try to enjoy it, like how wonderful it is, and then but deep down I kind of know that yes, this is beautiful, and it's every year, yeah, it will be beautiful, what's the big deal, or this is spring, so this is yes, there's trees, beautiful, but my life, there's this and this. So there's a disconnect between sort of this temporary escape into the natural beauty and the real problems of my life, and to that hopefully I don't disconnect that enjoyment, aesthetic enjoyment of beauty and personal sort of turmoil and unaddressed sort of needs and uncertainty, insecurity about whether my things are really happening according to a plan, or whether things are actually in control and are what the best, what is happening is the best, to be sure of that. And so just so anyway, just reminding myself, because I tend to slide into aesthetic enjoyment of beauty as an escape from the real issues of my life. So I realize that doesn't work, and actually that beauty is supposed to be, it seems, an answer or a healing for the wounds. So.
Jazakallah khair. I guess this is a great point, because like personally, I guess this is the one spring that really touches me, and this is one the period of time, like a period of my life that I most needed it. So yeah, when you are full of these wounds, I guess it comes and tells you, or comes and heals you. Then it makes sense. Otherwise, yes, I spent all these springs. They were all beautiful, but they just passed away. And as spring come close to an end, you just become sad. But this time, when you have all when you have your wounds, and you are actively asking for the healing, then the streets covered by pink flowers comes as a healing. Not only as just you were saying, as just aesthetic beauty. Yes, it is beauty, but it will rotten. Like a street will be uglier than before when the flowers get rotten. You can see it that way as well. But when you take it as a healing, as an answer to what you were asking, because when you have uncertainty in you, that when you're questioning, am I really loved? Am I really being valued? And all these things happening. What will happen to me next moment, next year? I don't know. And you have all these certainties which are hurting you, and then a street covered by flowers comes as a sign, as Feria was saying in her comments, that tells you that you are the royal guest of this universe. So everything is laid down in front of you. So this is your healing. This is your sign. Just be satisfied with it. Alhamdulillah. Another comment? So let's at least read the 7th proof. And then we can discuss next week, inshallah. Abdurrahman, would you like to read it for us?
Would she like to keep reading?
Oh, let's not waste time too.
Okay.
Yeah.
7th proof. Come, my friend. Now we shall leave these particular matters and turn our attention to the mutual positions of the parts of this wondrous world in the form of a palace. Look, universal works are being carried out and general revolutions are occurring in this world with such order that all the rocks, earth, trees, everything in this palace observe the universal systems of the world and conform to them as if each was acting with will. Things which are distant hasten to assist one another. Now look, a strange caravan has appeared. Footnote, these are the caravans of plants and trees, which bear the sustenance of all the animals. Now look, a strange caravan has appeared, coming from the unseen. The mounts in it resemble trees, plants, and mountains. Each bears a tray of provisions on its head. And look, they are bringing the provisions for the various animals awaiting them on this side. And see the mighty electric lamp. Footnote, the mighty electric lamp indicates the sun. And see the mighty electric lamp in that dome both furnishes them with light and cooks all their food so well that the foods to be cooked are each attached to a string. Footnote, and the string and the food attached to it are the slender branches of trees and their delicious fruits, each attached to a string by an unseen hand and held up before it. And on this side, see these wretched, weak, powerless little animals, how before their heads are attached 2 small pumps, full of delicate sustenance. Footnote again, and the 2 small pumps allude to the breasts of mothers, full of delicate sustenance like 2 springs. It is enough for those powerless creatures to only press their mouths against them. In short, just as all the things throughout the world look to one another, so they help one another. And just as they see one another, so they cooperate with one another. And just as they perfect each other's works, so too they support one another. Standing shoulder to shoulder, they work together. Make analogies with this for everything, they are uncountable. Thus, all these things demonstrate as decisively as 2 + 2 = 4, that everything is subjugated to the maker of this wondrous palace. That is, to the owner of this strange world. Everything is like a soldier under his command. Everything turns through his strength. Everything acts through his command. Everything is set in order through his wisdom. Everything helps the others through his munificence. Everything hastens to the assistance of the others through his compassion. That is, they are made to hasten to it. Now, my friend, say something in the face of this if you can.
So we have around 5, maybe 10 minutes. So we could, I guess, hear some quick comments on the seventh truth in general. Yusuf sent something, again, an image, as usual. So you can look at it. Yeah, any comments, Yusuf? Please.
Let me say, find a picture. As in the footnote, the author is saying that string and the food attached to it are the slender branches of trees and their delicious fruits. And in the metaphor, he is saying that for this electric lamp, cooks all their food so well that the foods to be cooked are each attached to a string by an unseen hand and held up before it. So this mango image that I shared is a very funny thing if you look at it. They are literally, this one is a long string that is coming out of the tree, and the food is put to the tip of this string, and it is being shown to the sun, this lamp, to be cooked. So it looks very funny. When I saw that picture, it appeared too funny to me. And in this setup of the text, it really sounds really funny, like a string, and it's just being shown to the lamp. But this is what it is. So.
Funny in an exciting way.
Yeah.
It's like, I guess this is the first time I'm thinking the relationship between sun and the foods in that way, like they're being cooked. This is, I don't know, like I don't want to just sound cliche, but this is so lovely, like the way Nursi puts, but beyond that, the way things being created, they're so like elegant. Fruits there and sun there, cooking them, and when they are ripe, is it the right? When they are ripe enough, like when they are cooked, we just take them and eat. This is so beautiful. And there's one comment from Muhammad saying, washing, drying, yeah, that's also being done, right? Like the things being washed, the things being dried, things being prepared for us. And as author says, like everything is being in a collaboration. Everything helps to each other. I guess it's really hard to see it that way from time to time, most of the times, because we see many things as enemies. But author says they are just your friends, actually. They're not your foes, your enemies. But they are your friends. They're helping you.
So as Muhammad Said says, washing and drying, it reminds me of Surah Al-Quraysh. So لإيلاف قريش إيلافهم رحلة الشتاء والصيف. That says, فليعبدوا رب هذا البيت, and then worship or recognize your neediness towards the Lord of this house. Rabbul Bayt is like Rabbatul Bayt is housewife. Rabbul Bayt is the Lord of the house, so who takes care of the house. And then the chapter finishes saying, الذي أطعمهم من جوع وآمنهم من خوف. So the Lord of the house is the one who secures you from hunger, who feeds you from hunger and secures you from your fears. So, and now looking at here, somebody is really cooking this food, washing, drying, doing everything for you, securing your needs, like making you free from your fears. So recognize your neediness towards this one who is already taking care of everything for you, recognizing the lordship or the Rabbness of that maker.
And it becoming a proof, right? This is the point. Like everything acting together, collaborating, and as you said, everything being taken care of with a hand, it becomes a proof of the unity of a single hand. I guess the unity itself, it's kind of, as far as I would say, is a healing. Like once you see the sign of unity, your security increases, your sense of security increases. Because even the things that you cannot make sense, even with the things that you see as enemy, if you see the signs of unity, then you say, okay, maybe I don't see it, but there must be a reason, there must be a meaning, there must be a compassion there too. Because it's the same single hand which is taking care of the house. So when I see, let's say, some ashes flying around, and if I know that it's the same hand which is taking care of the house, I would say, oh yeah, he's cleaning somewhere. So I wouldn't see it as, dirt flying around. I would say, oh, there's a cleaning there. He's taking care of the house. So I guess we are out of time. But we still have a few minutes for Asim, specifically if he wants to speak. But other than that, we can close. I guess it's just being... Oh, go ahead, please.
No, I'm still very nice. Like looking at the picture that Yusuf shared, I'm really thinking about that, how the analogy is being made. It's very beautiful, like the way, I need to be more observant of the world, the universe. And yeah, all the comments I've been hearing, very beautiful. Thank you so much for all that. It's really, the previous also, the sixth proof, I was also looking at, thinking about the way Nursi put it in one of the second paragraph. He was saying that the showers of favors on everyone to which they are worthy. That was, I thought, a phrase that was really, meant something to me in terms of, a few weeks ago, Brother Ali was discussing about what favors meant. And that is something that, at least was new to me, how everything in life, in my experience, everything is nothing but a favor, and everything I'm, experiencing is given to me at the moment, at the right time, and just, in proper measurement, which is what the way divine determining is. Like everything comes and, for everything in the universe, every creation, every being is getting its share, to what it's worth. For that's in perfect measurement. So, and then same thing in terms of the seventh proof is highlighting more of the, looking at the universality and the work that is being done and in all the motion and the actions that are happening around in the universe. And especially in terms of like everything is being shown as like a tray and like in cauldron. He's making these examples that you, Asim, or the human being, you are being served with so many favors. You just, like it's all like the flower example you were giving, like you are being treated so kindly, so generously, so beautifully, and then you still, as a human, you're complaining about things. Oh, I don't like this, this has happened to me, my day was like this, when everything is just, provisions for you, like a table spread with all the bounties that you can imagine.
سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. الفاتحة.